puts it in the oven.
Say hi, Jace.
Don't touch. Come here. She puts it on a bread proofing setting, which keeps it like 100 degrees or something.
Yeah.
Overnight. And then she has these special containers that have a filter built in. And you fill that filter. Okay. And it lets all the whey seep out of the
lets all the water get out of
the bowl. And what you have left in there is yogurt.
Wow. I bet it's delicious.
It is. But we've had bottle lambs, and they can drink the cow's milk. So we've been fairly low surplus. Normally what she does, she gets 4 or 5 gallons in there. She'll make yogurt. But with the bottle lambs, we had a lot of surplus. And she pulls the cream off before she makes the yogurt. And then we'll make butter out of all that. She bought some silicone molds.
Yeah.
She'll put it in and freeze it. But we go through a lot of butter.
We put on a steak and sweet potatoes.
We put it on about everything. Come around there, don't bump that. Don't touch it. When I say come around, I mean walk all the way around.
So, usually we'll be done with the bottle lambs at 4 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
I tell you who's got really good butter is Costco.
I've never been to a Costco.
They're great. We got a friend that goes. They're like a family of 7, so they go. Costco's got a lot more food options.
Well, hey everybody, and welcome to my Appalachian Life, or my Appy Life for short. I'm Joanna, and today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to make potato sourdough bread. Now, this is a bread that you have to have a starter to start with. And you can make your own starter. There's recipes for doing that. And I have tried that. But in my experience, it's better if you find someone who already has the starter and just get some from them, because it's aged and it just makes better bread and better tasting bread. So, we had lunch today after church at Young Asian House. It's one of our favorite places to eat. And it's Father's Day, and that's where Joe wanted to go eat today. So we did. And I had shared some of my sourdough bread with the owner and her husband and family. And she told me, we love that bread. And she wants to make it, wants the recipe. So I'm doing this tutorial just so she can see the step-by-step instructions. Now, guys, this isn't hard at all. It's really easy to make. You just need to start out with your starter. Now, you can make your own starter, and there's recipes for doing that, and I have a recipe how to start your own starter. But in my experience, if you can find someone who already is making the bread, get them to share some of the starter with you, because that way it's aged. And it's just not starting from scratch and feeding it and letting it do its thing. So the aged starter, in my experience, makes better bread and it's better tasting. So I'm going to share some of my starter with her. So this is my starter. I keep it in a glass jar. You keep your starter in glass or plastic. You never let metal come in contact with the starter. It will kill it. So when you stir it, make sure you're using a wooden spoon or a plastic utensil of some kind, but never use metal on your starter, okay? So this has been in the refrigerator for about 7 days, and typically you need to feed it every 5 to 7 days. So I'm going to feed it today. And I'm going to show you how I do it. So this is the first step. It's getting it out of the refrigerator. And I always cover it with a piece of paper towel or a dishcloth or something just to keep stuff out of it. But it needs to breathe while it's in the refrigerator. So I just keep this towel over it and the lid. I'll set the lid over here. Now you don't even have to use a lid. You can put a rubber band around this and that will be fine. But I had just screwed holes in this lid so that it can breathe. And I just put it on there for extra assurance so it doesn't knock over and spill or anything. So anyway, I've just taken this out of the refrigerator and I'm going to set it on my countertop and I'll let it sit here all day. And tonight before I go to bed, I will actually feed it and let it sit overnight. So stay tuned for step 2. Step 1 is getting it out of the fridge, okay? Our starter has been sitting out of the refrigerator for about 7 hours. You just want to bring it to room temperature. Anywhere from 4 to 8 hours sitting out just to get to room temperature is good. So it's time to feed it. So I'm going to take the cloth off using a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon, never metal. I'm just going to stir this starter up a little bit. I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of instant potato flakes, or not teaspoons, but tablespoons. I had the wrong measurer in here, but 4 tablespoons of instant potato flakes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. This is a 1/4 of a cup measuring cup, so there's 1/4 and 1/2. And 1 cup of water. And this is just regular tap water. I stuck it in the microwave for about 20 seconds just to warm it up a little bit. Pour that in. And one tip is if your starter has not been fed in a while, you really need to feed it at least once a week, whether you make bread or not. But if it's not rising good when you make the bread, then add a teaspoon of active yeast in with the feeding. I'm going to do that today because it's been a while since I've made bread, and I just want to make sure that it rises good. So I'm just going to add a teaspoon of yeast. Now you don't have to do this every time. It's just for extra insurance if it's been a while since you've made bread, or if you're having difficulty with your dough rising like it should, just add a little yeast to your feeding. And then you stir all of this up. It smells wonderful. If you like sourdough smell, that yeasty smell makes me hungry. That's stirred up. So now I'm just going to put the cover back on it. It needs to breathe, remember, and let it set overnight. And in the morning, we will make bread. So that's all there is to the next step. Step 1 is taking it out of the refrigerator, bringing to room temperature. Step 2 is to feed it. So we'll make bread in the morning. Okay, it's the next morning and we're ready for step 3 of this sourdough bread making. Yesterday was day 1, and on day 1 you set your starter out of the refrigerator to let it come to room temperature. Then step 2 is you feed it and leave it overnight or leave it all day, depending on what time you set it out of the fridge. But anyway, it's the next morning. This has been sitting all night, and you can see all the magic that it's done in there. It's risen and it's all bubbly. So today is step 3, and then we're going to make the dough. So we're going to take a wooden spoon and just kind of stir that starter up. Okay, now we're going to add the liquid ingredients into a large plastic bowl, and this is a 5-quart bowl. So I've got 3/4 cup of canola oil. So I'll put that in. And then I need a full cup of starter. And there's the starter. Goes in. And we need 1.5 cups of warm water, and I need to heat this in the microwave for about 25 seconds, and I'll be back. I'm back with the warm water. I just heated it in the microwave for about 25 seconds just to warm it up a little bit. So that's in. So that's all the liquid ingredients, and we'll give that a stir to mix together. Now I'm going to add salt and sugar. 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. There is 1/4, 1/2, and 2 teaspoons of regular table salt, the iodized salt. Makes 2 loaves, so 2 teaspoons of salt. And we give all that a stir. And now we're ready to add the flour, and I use bread flour. You can use any brand you like. Pillsbury bread flour, Gold Medal, King Arthur. But my personal favorite is the Pillsbury bread flour. And you want to sift it. Now you don't have to sift it, but sifting just makes the texture of the bread better, I think. A little lighter. So set this to the side for a minute, and I've got my flour bowl and sifter. And I keep my flour in this container, the bread flour. So we need 6 cups. There's 1, 2, 3, and remember this makes 2 loaves, so it's 3 cups per loaf. If you wanted just to make a 1 loaf and not 2, you could certainly do that. Just cut the ingredients in half on the recipe. So I'm sifting in the 3 cups. And also, if you make 2 loaves and you want to make one loaf of sourdough bread and 1 pan of cinnamon rolls, you can do that. Or 1 loaf of regular potato sourdough bread and 1 loaf of oatmeal raisin bread, or whatever kind you like. You can do it. It's very versatile. So here's 3 cups of flour that's going into the bowl. I'm going to do 3 more. I put it in the wrong thing. Let me just do this. It won't hurt if some of it's not sifted. Okay, now I'm just going to sift that right into the bowl. Now, what I think I'm going to do on this batch of 2 loaves is make 1 sourdough and 1 cinnamon roll, just so you can see how I do the cinnamon rolls too. So we've got all the flour in, and with your wooden spoon, a large spoon or a spatula, you just start stirring it up. It comes together pretty quick. You get you down where you can see. I think you can see there. And just start folding it over once it starts to thicken up and get all the flour incorporated in there. And scraping down the sides. And sometimes I think it depends on how much humidity is in the air. Your dough will be a little wetter than usual, or sometimes it's dry. So if it's too wet, just sprinkle in a little more flour. If it's too dry, just add a little more oil. I think this is going to be good. Now it's forming a ball. So what I'm going to do now is put a little flour on my hands to get this off the spoon. And my hands are clean. I washed before I started this. And Joe's my witness, aren't you, honey?
Yeah, I will be.
You will be? Okay, done with the spatula. And I'm going to just sprinkle a little flour on here so the dough don't stick to my hands. Some people like to put oil on their hands to do this, but whatever works for you. And I just start punching it down. And turning it over. And punch down as I turn over. That's a little wet, so I'm going to add a little flour. And you just do this about 4 or 5 times. It's a little sticky. And you can see it's starting to get into a smoother shape of a ball. Some people take the dough out on a floured surface and do that, but I just think, why not do it in the bowl? It's big enough and you don't have to dirty something else up to wash. This piece of dough flew out. Okay, I think this is going to be good. So all we do now is pat it down a little bit, punch it down. Okay, we're going to cover it with a towel and let it sit in a warm place for the rest of the day for about 8 hours. So I've got a linen kitchen towel here that I will drape over it, and then I've got a thicker terry cloth towel I'm going to put on top just to make sure it stays warm. And then we'll be back tonight for step 4. Now for the jar of starter that we just took a cup out of, there's looks like a little more than a half a cup, maybe 3/4 cup in here. I'm going to save that all. You always want to save at least a half a cup of your starter. But if I wasn't making bread and I just was feeding it, it has to be fed every 5 to 7 days. If I'm not making bread, I just feed it every 7 days. But sometimes I want to make bread more than once a week, and I'll feed it after 3 or 4 days. But anyway, once you take your starter out to make your bread, you want to store the rest of it. But if you're not making bread, you want to discard at least a cup of the starter. Just throw it out or give it to a friend. So now I'm going just to cover this one back up and put it back in the fridge until the next feeding. I think Joe is feeling his oats this morning. I told him we needed to get out and mow the yard before it gets really hot, and he broke out in this song. And will you do it again?
Well, we'll try it. It's been a hard day's night, and I've been sleeping like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I've been working with my all, but I'll just keep loving you, loving you, and loving you to the
All right. Okay, it's about 8:30 tonight, same day, and it's time for the next step, step 4. So we've had the bread rising in this 5-quart bowl, and it's been covered with dishcloths to keep it nice and warm. It has doubled in size, so we're just going to punch it down, and I'll get you back down here so you can see good. And my hands are clean, I just washed them. I just take my fist and punch it down to get all the air out of the dough. And then I just start rolling it over. Punch it down some more on that side. And now we're going to divide it. Now if you wanted to make 2 loaves of bread, you divide it in half and put each half in a loaf pan. And I have my loaf pan greased with baking spray. So I'm going to do 1 loaf, and the other half I'm going to make cinnamon rolls. So I just eyeball it, go right down the middle. You can use a knife, but I like this plastic scraper. Now I'm going to put a little bit of flour here. And I'm just going to roll it. Oops, I shook the camera. I'm going to roll it as I knead it. You don't have to knead it much, but I'm just trying to get it smooth. Okay, I think that's good. And I'm going to put it in this loaf pan and press it in there. And that's it. Now you can put plastic wrap around this if you want to. I'm not going to. I'm just going to put the towels back over it. And that will rise overnight. I'll set this aside. And on this other half, I'm going to make cinnamon rolls. So I'm going to put a little flour on this board. My camera back over here. And you want to flatten the dough and shape it into a rectangle. And I'm going to get my rolling pin out and roll it. I'll be back. Okay, I have my rolling pin, and it's going to make it a little easier to do that. So you're wanting to roll it out into a rectangle. Okay, I have it rolled out now, and there's no really size you're looking for, just as long as you get your dough nice and thin and it's a rectangle shape. Mine happens to be 21 inches long and 12 inches wide. So now that I've got that, I've got 5 tablespoons of melted butter, and I'm just going to brush the top of this dough all over good with the butter. And if you don't think you have enough butter, melt some more and put on there. But you want a good coating to hold the cinnamon and sugar on it. And I think the 5 tablespoons is going to be perfect. I'll save just a little bit to brush the tops. Okay. Now, I have mixed together a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of white sugar, and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And I'm just going to sprinkle this all over the top. And you want a good coating of that too, because you don't want to skimp on the cinnamon inside those good cinnamon rolls. I'm leaving a little bit of edge so I can pinch the dough together when I roll it up. See if I see any bare spots that need to be covered. And I'm going to save just a little bit to sprinkle on top. I think that's good. Now we're going to start with the long end and start rolling it up into a roll. And I just kind of pinch it as I go to keep it good and tight. Kind of tucking it under as I go. Okay, now I'm going to go back and just pinch these ends in to hold. This is a long roll. Okay, now what I'm going to do is start cutting it, and the recipe says in 1-inch slices, but I like it a little bit thicker than that. What did I do with my, there it is, my plastic scraper. So I'm going to cut it in half to start with, and half again. And I think I'm going to do thirds now. Now, I have a round baking dish prepared with baking spray, and I'm going to start setting these up in the baking pan, spaced a little bit apart to give them room to grow, and they will grow. I'm going to say that for the smaller pan. Put this one in here. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and brush the tops with some butter. And this end piece doesn't have much cinnamon on it, so I'm going to put quite a bit of cinnamon right there. And sprinkle a little bit on the rest of them. So I have 4 pieces left, and I'm going to get a smaller pan to put those in. But we're going to cover these and let them set overnight to rise. And tomorrow morning will be our last step. Where's my towel? Tomorrow morning will be our last step, step 5, and that's the most fun step of all, and that's when we bake it and smell it in the oven and get to enjoy it when it comes out. So we'll see you guys in the morning, and these will be right. Okay, I've put them all to bed. They're covered up in their blankets, and we'll see you in the morning. Here we are the next morning, and it's just turned 9 o'clock, and I'm checking the bread, and this is the loaf, and you can see how it's puffed up there. Let's see how it's risen. It's risen good, ready to bake. The cinnamon rolls look good. So I'm going to preheat the oven to 350. And we will bake these for 30 minutes. It's going to be good. They just came out of the oven after 30 minutes, and they look really good, nice and golden brown. And I'm just going to take a stick of butter and go over the top of the bread. It just came out of the fridge, so it takes it a minute to warm up and start melting on that hot bread. And I'm going to turn that bread out on a wire rack to let it cool. And you can put a glaze, drizzle a glaze on the cinnamon rolls. My personal favorite is a maple glaze. But to be honest, Joe and I just like them plain without a glaze, don't we, honey?
Yeah.
So I know what I'm having for breakfast.
So do I.
You just had your cereal, so the cinnamon roll smells really good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Alright, so this is how we make our sourdough breads, and hope y'all enjoy it. So I just put this on a wire rack, and you can see how nice and golden the bottom is. Flip that over. I'm going to let it sit here and cool, and then I'll put it in a bread storage bag. These guys have been doing fence work again today, replacing posts and fence boards. They had to take a break.
Getting nourished.
It's a hot day. It's getting hotter,
Yes,
isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That sun beats
Nice
down on
breeze.
you really
There's a nice
fast.
breeze coming through here right now.
Well, you're talking better. The food must have helped you a lot.
I think the food and this rest and the liquids and everything,
The whole package.
the whole thing.
All right, if I had a whip, I'd crack it. Joe is admiring my bird bath that I put together, and I'm proud of myself. This bird bath belonged to my mother, and I brought it home when she passed away. I just couldn't part with it because I can't tell you the times that she had me go out and clean that bird bath out and fill it up with fresh water for the birds. But now over the winters it's cracked and it won't hold, and I've tried to repair it with that Gorilla sealant, and it worked for a couple of years, and now it's cracking again. So I decided to make a flower pot out of it. But when I went down to the tool shed, garden tool shed, I found this galvanized feeder, and I thought, well, how neat it would be to put that in the bird bath and make a water feature out of it. And I had some rocks that I had upstairs in the attic. So I put them down here in the bottom, decorative rocks. And then I saw this water fountain. I ordered it on Amazon. It's on sale for like $12.99. It doesn't have any batteries. It's powered solely by the sun, and it has different nozzles you can put on there for spray patterns. So as long as it's in direct sun, it works like this. In the shade, it just gives little spurts of water every once in a while. But I am tickled to death with it. What do you think, honey?
Oh, it's unreal. Can't believe it.
So, that's the water feature. So I hope y'all enjoyed the video of making the sourdough bread, and I'll put the recipe and instructions in the description box below the video, and also the recipe on how to start your own potato sourdough starter. So it's one of our favorite breads, and you like it, don't you, honey?
Yep.
It's really good to toast it, put some hot butter on it. Really, eat it any way you want it. It's good. But we've had a busy week this week, and it's been so hot in the 90s. Joe and I worked out Wednesday, I guess it was, clearing more fence line, and by 3 o'clock the heat was unbearable. We had to get back inside. And then Gary came over Thursday and finished the last 2 posts around our corral that needed to be replaced. And he and Joe worked on that, and again, it was a hot day, and the sun was about to get to you yesterday too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Today they say it's going to be the hottest day of the year, so we're not doing anything outside other than sitting in this shade. So it'll be a rest day today. But we hope y'all have a blessed day and another blessed week coming up. Father's Day was last Sunday, so I hope all you dads had a good day. And I guess that's all I have to say. Do you have anything to say, honey?
Well, I just wish everyone a happy,
Speak up loud.
day, and do it the right way.
Have a happy day and do it the right way, he said. So keep walking in the light, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.
Bye-bye.